Eagles visit the Giants on Sunday in Saquon Barkley's Super Bowl. Philly coming off a 20-16, somewhat uninspiring win over the Browns in a game that ended with something of a bizarre interaction between Nick Sirianni and the home fans. Again, Saquon hoping to do his thing. Sirianni, we better hope, doesn't do this thing. Here was Dan Orlovsky yesterday.
This is the least prepared football team in the NFL. The least prepared. They've had 5 opening drives this season. They got 22 yards. So you mean to tell me an offense that has Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and one of the best offensive line in football and Saquon Barkley, they got 22 yards? You guys know this, in my opinion at least. In the NFL, how you finish games is really about players. How you start games is really about coaching.
So I thought that was a really interesting take, and we got a lot of reactions to it here. We'll start with Teddy, because you sort of jumped on that. I don't want to go too big picture here, but generally, did you agree with what Dan said?
No, I don't. I mean, the coaches have big involvement in quarters 2, 3, and 4, in my opinion also. And about players finishing games, it's also players starting games. The whole 4 quarters are the players, all right? You can call whatever you want, offensively, defensively, special teams. Players got to go out there and execute. Listen, this is what we're talking about here is a team that is 3-2. Okay, let's just put it that way, because I'm a bottom line type of guy, and we can talk about quarters and how they finish and the number of yards with yardage stats. I don't even want to get started with all of that stuff, but listen, bottom line, this is a 3-2 football team that possibly could be even better, that needs to get a little bit healthy. The head coach, yes. Does the head coach need to chill a little bit? Absolutely. I mean, a little bit of coaching on the field goal block team would help a little bit. If somebody's in the A-gap like Myles Garrett and you know they're about to jump, I mean, stop that person from jumping in the air. Simple things like that. I don't think it's a catastrophic problem in Philadelphia with the head coach or their preparation, because eventually with your preparation, you got to come back and win football games in quarters 2, 3, and 4.
What do you think, Bart?
Well, that's why the world should be ran by linebackers, because I tell you, Teddy Bruschi is absolutely correct. We're not going to panic. I think we're creating crisis. This is a team that is 3-2 that beat the Green Bay Packers, who you said was going to be in the Super Bowl. Yeah. That beat the New Orleans Saints when everybody thought they were the darling of the world. Right? Let's not manufacture a crisis here. This still is a team that's very talented. Yes, they lost, but they were decimated by injury. No Lane Johnson. We know what that record is without Lane Johnson. No A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Listen, you talk about being able to delegate, and that's what a head coach is supposed to do. Nick Sirianni's antics. Listen, nobody really has any. My interaction isn't with the head coach. My interaction is with the coordinators. So you talk about slow starts, that's a Kellen Moore thing. He's the guy who devises the first 15-play script. That has nothing to do with Nick Sirianni right here.
But then what does? I mean, I guess what I'm asking you is what exactly is it he does? We can't be asking what the head coach does. This is what we've seen him do so far.
He decided to go for it on 4th down. That's what he's supposed to. Now, listen, this is childish, and he's supposed to be the CEO. That's because he got too much time on his hands because he has no job to do.
Let me push back on that. I agree with Teddy and Bart from this standpoint. If the 5 of us were running a head coaching search, and 3 years from now, we look back and say, hey, we got to the Super Bowl. Hey, we went to the playoffs in the other years. We'd be like, man, we did a great job. We hired a successful coach, not perfect. He has to grow up. He has to be the CEO. But he is the chief strategist. And one of the things that I really struggle with what Dan Orlovsky said is, when we're assessing a coach's football acumen and strategist, it's about second half adjustments. We went in with X, we're going to go to Y in the second half. And that's what football is. It's the game of chess played on grass. Why was Bill Belichick so good? Asked Teddy Bruschi. It was the adjustments. It was the matchups that worked or didn't work. And that's why, to me, like, we're being unfair to Nick Sirianni. He should be held accountable to some of those other things. Right. But this team, at the end of the day, has won.
I didn't get the sense that Orlovsky was talking about X's and O's. Like Nick Sirianni's job is to make, writ large, is to make sure the team is prepared to play the game. And Dan's saying they don't look like they are when they show up. Look, it's going to be about wins and losses. Remember Bull Durham when he says you got fungus on your shower shoes? Like you got to get rid of, like you win 20 games in the show, you let the fungus grow back on your shower shoes, the press will say you're colorful. Right. Nick Sirianni goes back to the Super Bowl, he can act however he wants on the sideline.
That's right.
But right now, they're in a situation where they need to do better on the field, and if they don't, then we're going to keep having this conversation every week about him.
By the way, Teddy, just give us a quick sense. I'm up against the clock here. Saquon Barkley this week, do you expect them to be making? Should we expect this to be a monster game for Barkley going up against his former team?
I think that's what he wants. I mean, absolutely. He is hoping for a monster game. I mean, believe me, they're going to have to block up front also. And they're not, Graz has said it already, not having Andrew Thomas really hurts the left tackle of the New York Giants. So, listen, if they can block for him, he is going to have a big game. They're going to feed him over and over again because very similar to like the point that the Detroit Lions wanted to prove last week against the Cowboys. I think maybe Nick Sirianni, you think that he'd take it personal for one of his best players? Absolutely.
Got great games coming up. We're going to play a game called Who You Got? Tannenbaum, Chiefs, Niners. Super Bowl rematch, who you got?
I'm going with the 49ers for two reasons, Greeny. They've been able to run the ball despite Christian McCaffrey being out all season, which is really remarkable. And then on the other side of the ball, at some point, Greeny, this subpar play for the offensive tackles for the Chiefs has to catch up to them. I think it's this week because of Nick Bosa. And boy, Patrick Mahomes is going to have to be Superman once again.
Teddy, how do you see this game?
I see the Chiefs. That's who I got, really, because I just think they do certain things that the 49ers have shown that they can't stop. Offensively, down in the red area, the running back to the flat, any player to the flat, they were beating both Super Bowls. Okay, can they fix that problem? And in gotta-have-it situations, Spags is bringing that blitz, and can they stop it? And they couldn't in critical situations in the Super Bowl last year.
Bart, what do you think?
I mean, it's more simple than all of that for me. They have Patrick Mahomes, and I picked up against him before, and I've had to eat crow. I am the guy who said they wouldn't make it to the playoffs the year that they won the Super Bowl.
I'm with you, but there's the other way of looking at that. I'm picking them too, but the other way of looking, they're not going to go 17-0 this season. So if you're looking for a spot, maybe they lose. It's on the road at San Francisco.
But much like those Teddy Bruschi New England Patriots teams. Like they lose to teams that they have no business losing to. The teams that they get up for, they usually dominate. So they'll lose to Indianapolis, or I don't know what subpar team they have on their record, but they'll lose to one of those guys, and we'll be on to Buffalo or whatever they used to say.
Play the Raiders twice.
Right, they'll lose one to the Raiders, or they'll lose to Harbaugh.
I'm with you. I don't pick against the Chiefs anymore. I'm just done.
Fair enough. So
Juju Smith-Schuster catch 200
Giants,
yards worth
man.
of
How'd we lose
after
to
he
them?
couldn't play in New England.
what were you going to say, Teddy? What game still eats at you the most?
How'd we lose to the Giants? Man, Bart reminded me just.
I caught a ball in his head.
I just can't.
One or the other.
Yeah,
let's go
man.
to.
What do you got?
We almost lost Teddy in the memory. Graz, Texans, Packers. This is your game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yes, in Green Bay. How do you see it?
Really tough game to pick. I'm going with the home team, which is the Packers. Just feel like, their offense against what is really a very banged-up Houston defense that could be missing as many as 5 starters for this game. I think the Packers can do a lot of different things on offense that are going to cause them problems. Being at home, I think, is the tiebreaker for me, taking the Packers in a good one.
Teddy, I'm not surprised you're taking Green Bay in this game because you have been. I have the privilege of working with you every Sunday. I know you still have some questions about the Texans.
I do. I mean, it's. They answered a lot of them, though, Greeny. I was doubting if they could beat higher competition. They had their schedule, but what they did versus the Buffalo Bills when they ended up winning that game said a lot for me when I saw that game. So this game, I heard Tannenbaum talking about it earlier in the show about a possible, postseason matchup, which would be the Super Bowl. And it's not far-fetched because I've just come to start to believe in these Houston Texans. Okay. They're a great team. Now I'm still picking the Green Bay Packers. I think this is a great team in itself. I know Love's decision-making has been in question, but I just love LaFleur and how he can just temper that with running the football and a defense that takes the ball the way they do. Young safety and Evan Williams. The Packers just always have these rookies that it's like, that guy's a rookie and he's playing like that. They develop talent. They do so well. I like Green Bay.
Greeny, why I'm falling in love with Houston is we talk about the two-headed monster of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Joe Mixon's a really good player. Last week he comes back, been hurt, rushes for 102 yards against New England. They score over 40 points. This offense is really going to be hard to defend.
You love them so much you're taking Green Bay all the way this week. I can see it. One more game. Teddy, how about Bartholomew's Lions against the Vikings?
What up, though?
Monster game in that NFC North. Who do you like, Teddy?
Yeah, the story of the Minnesota Viking defense is all of those packages that B. Flo Evans had when I was running them. When I was at New England, B. Flo actually has background in the New England system also. But you can't run those blitzes if they're shoving it down your throat. And stopping the run, I think, will be the biggest problem for them. The Lions are who I'm taking in this game. This is just a tough team that showed me enough last week that they can pound it on anyone that they want to. And that run game is just going to be tough to stop to get them into 3rd and longs.
And they have the right level of petty, right? The thing with Skipper and trying to shove it down Dallas' throat, that lets me know that they have the right level of petty, which all great teams do. They have the physicality to back it up, and you don't want to be in a phone booth with them. Just give me whatever Teddy says. We're linebackers.
I hear you. Unfortunately, look, and I see the other side represented on the screen. I was 100% ready to say the Lions are the best team in the NFL, right up until the moment that Aiden Hutchinson's leg did something that no leg should ever do.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's got to impact them.
You would think, now long term, right? Like could they rally around it this week and be fine? Yes, they can control games with that offensive line. They have something that almost no one else has in that offensive line and that run game. So they're going to be dangerous regardless. But, yeah, Vikings are coming off a bye. The Vikings are playing at home. Like, there were reasons to...
Yeah. But they didn't. Aiden Hutchinson was 35% of their pressures, 50% of their sacks, and they're also missing Marcus Davenport.
Yeah.
They're going to have to look like the Vikings and blitz a lot more.
Yeah.
Teddy, final word.
Yeah, I'll say it's not out of the question, fellas, that the Lions don't even win this division.
Right.
I mean, if you look at the teams that are there, right there with them in the Vikings and the Packers, I mean, it is very possible this could be a wild card team. So, best team in the NFL, it can be in the conversation, but also be in the conversation as a wild card team when you have a division like this.
Remember, Minnesota went to Green Bay and won. That was the first game that Love came back. So they've banked a huge road win.